This is Random Stranger, and I'm playing Heisei Tensai Bakabon. It's a almost completely overlooked Famicom game from very late in the Famicom's life. And it's based on a cartoon and comic that ran in Japan for decades, which is similarly almost completely unknown outside of Japan, but apparently was very popular there. I've never seen it myself. And this mid-boss is a guy we're going to see a lot of as we go through the first world. He's the only thing that you can attack. The mid-bosses, I should say. There's more than one, but they're the only things that you can attack in the game. And it switches to a different mode. The reason I became aware of this is that this game's going to be featured on this week's episode of Game Center CX. So I checked it out to see what it was like, and I found, oh, this is pretty neat. And then I tried to look around for some videos of it, and there were hardly anything. The game is really hard, and the controls are a bit unintuitive. I think it took me about an hour of play to beat the first stage. You only have one life. If you die, you have to continue, and your life bar is returned to the starting state of 3 dots, which is very bad when you get towards the end of the world. You can see there I have to do some really precise timing. I love the animations in this game. There's tons of them. That pogo jump I just did is a situational thing. It only becomes available in areas where you have to be able to pogo jump to continue. If I hadn't skidded to a stop, I would have bounced off that wall and hurt myself. You get hurt by falling from too high of height. And of course, touching enemies, spikes, things like that. Okay. Doing serial jumps requires really precise timing. In fact, everything here requires super precise timing. There's a lot of sections where once you've done something wrong, you're essentially going to lose a lot of life rather than just 1 dot. The most important thing is locating those bowls of noodles. They increase your life bar, but don't give you additional health. You have to find the milk for the additional health. But you need those that extended life bar. There's a lot more milk than there is life bar extensions. Alright, now here I'll fall through the rope if I don't balance myself, so I have to pop out the umbrella, which is what the B button does normally. If I went down there, I'd have to locate a spring and do a jump while avoiding that. So here I'm trying to grab onto those and swing. You see, here's a spot where it calls for a pogo jump. This guy whips twice and then backs off. So, if you can time that, like I'm missing here, then it's pretty easy to get into his pattern. Unfortunately, if he goes up against the far wall, he'll move a little bit more freely. He did have more life that time that I fought him. Locating those spots where it looks like there will be something hidden is just incredibly important. Alright, new type of enemy here. The lions all stick their paws out of their cage when you pass by. And you see I got hurt by falling too far. I was trying to hit the umbrella, but you have to hit the umbrella button before you pass a certain point in your jump or fall. Otherwise it doesn't work. You can squeeze in between boxes and walls that are narrow like that, but which way you're facing is important. You cannot fall down holes that are like that. You'll always cling to the edges and pull yourself up. I'm going to screw up this next section. Here, the idea is you're supposed to do serial jumps from there, but I stopped, and it's really tough to get your momentum going again properly. And once you're in the spikes, you're not really able to do much else. If I had backed out, I still would have lost the additional health. Time doesn't really start becoming a factor until the next stage. Or rather, the next world. Alright, here I have to deal with those hitboxes. This guy's hitbox is different than you'd expect. It's shorter and it's wider. Now this is a really tricky section. You tend to cling onto the edge of the cage, and if you do that, then you're going to get hit. Fortunately, there's milk right here. Now, milk doesn't refill you all the way. It's 3 bars. Even the milk at the end of the stage is only 3 bars. Don't want the umbrella out there. That'll prevent me from jumping. So apparently this guy isn't the title character from the cartoon. Instead, he's that character's father. It's like he's the Homer Simpson who took over the show. Yeah, I can go the faster way underneath, but I want the noodles that are hidden up here. Yeah, everything has this really tight, non-intuitive timing. Now let's say I did happen to die on this point. What would happen is I would be returned to the beginning of this stage, the last time that little thing waddled out and gave me milk. And my life bar would be reduced to just 3 dots. I overjumped that a little bit. You can see what they want you to do right there, but it's not always easy to actually do it. By collecting excess milk and excess bowls of noodles, they're actually stored in case I do run out of life. I'll try to avoid demonstrating that, but what would happen is that little duck dog thing would crawl out and refresh my life with the milk if I ran out of health right now. Yeah, you have to be running to use that pogo boost appropriately. It just doesn't work otherwise. There is a noodle bowl and a milk down there. but it's not worth getting in my experience. Those guys are a pain. If I stepped on that brick, there would be a spring that would get me up top for another noodle bowl, but every time I've tried to get it, I've gotten hit repeatedly by that, whatever that thing was. Probably something from the show. And it wound up killing me, so I don't go after it. If I remember correctly, this is the last time I have to fight him. This is a very slow, methodical game. You can run, but that will tend to mean that you'll run into walls and lose health. Sometimes you just pass through the pickups for some reason. Now, I have to be facing the correct way when I try this climb, otherwise I won't be able to get to the top. I'd lose my grip right there and not be facing the right way to climb up. Tight ropes are back. This is the last stage of the world. We'll switch to another theme here in a moment. After the boss, of course. If you are at max health or at max life bar size and hit a trigger for those items, what will appear instead is a 1,000-point token. So that thing can hit you while you're swinging, which is why I'm going to try to time myself to go between. I just missed the catch for that next part. Here's where the timing gets really funny, because it takes you a couple seconds to get up there, so you have to, well, obviously you have to just get it precisely right. Really, I should have started doing it probably when it was passing the red part. I decided to try to climb up and jump over him, and that did not work. That wasn't a good example of the flattening animation. You could barely see it. I'm sure I'll do something horrible later on. You're supposed to float down there at the same rate that the electricity's falling, and I just screwed up the jump. That S at the bottom turns off the lightning between those 2 points. It does turn on after about 3 seconds, so you have to just move fast to get through. You can see there's a lion hiding in that yellow box, even though you can't see him there. And here's where I do something stupid. We're approaching the boss, so I thought, oh, I'll collect some more health. And I probably shouldn't have. Now, you can be hit while you're refilling your health. Like I was right there, so I could have lost more of that. Right back to where I started from. And really, I should have just come down here for the beginning. Jumping over those guys in tight spots is real tough. Nice. You actually jump over where the paw swings, so as long as you are even just slightly outside, you can easily make that. That's a jerk move. If I had walked off really slowly and fallen close to the left lion cage, then it wouldn't have been able to reach me. And that sign lets me know that I am at the boss. Before I go, might as well collect this. The bosses in this game are not normal bosses. You usually have to do something special, figure out what they want you to do with the boss, and then beat them. In this case, I have to catch as many of these red balls as possible. If I miss any, I wind up losing a little bit of health. The trick is that his wider tosses move at about the same speed as you walk. You're not allowed to run in this, so if you've missed one of those, or you're not in exactly the right position, you're out, and they can change their direction wildly when they bounce off that wall. So that's why I got way over there. That wasn't that tough. I guess that guy is someone from the show, but I don't know enough about it. We're on to World 2. And this one is kind of a creepy, haunted castle theme, I guess. And you'll see I lost all my extended health when we came to this stage. There's enough health in Stage 2-1, or rather enough noodle bowls in Stage 2-1, where you could almost get a full health bar again. Actually, I think you can, although I do wind up skipping one bowl just because of its position. Coming up on a new mid-boss here. We've got a ninja, kind of. Really wobbly ninja. His thing is that he'll throw the throwing star high, and then he'll throw it low. So, the trick is you dodge one throwing star, you move in to hit, repeat. has a lot more life than that, was he a ringmaster or a lion tamer? Well, it doesn't matter, I guess. The last guy. Time becomes a real issue in World 2. If you don't locate a clock in the power-ups, you're gonna be really pressed for time by the end of it. Those patterned doors in the background, they are actually Hanafuda cards, like Nintendo used to make. Should have used the umbrella there. Those little stars on the floor hurt you. Obviously, they're just spikes, essentially. Sadly, those poles don't have anything hidden in them. Really looks like they should. Barely see the umbrella when you move around in here. Alright, you're going to see one of the basic control errors in this game. Whoops! Umbrella out! I was trying to do a running jump, but because I wasn't moving when I hit the run button, I pulled out the umbrella instead, which is a long animation that you are stuck in until it completes. Those spiders remind me a lot of Adventure Island spiders. No, the occupants of this castle are not Nazis. There you go, 100 extra seconds, or whatever time unit is. There was another noodle bowl up top if I had gone that way, but I decided to rush through the bottom. And besides, there's this noodle bowl right here, and I'm now at max health. Or max health bar size. I should have gone up. There's nothing hidden right there. I always think there is, though. The lower ones you can jump over, but it requires precision, and also you don't want to have that happen. Now, it's this, the background's more than the color change for those doors. That's actually the other kind of a suit for Hanafuda cards. It's kind of a purple suit and an orange suit. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but if you really care about Hanafuda, you can look up the rules and online and see how all these different cards interact. That's useful. Yeah, that ninja doesn't do anything other than appear and disappear. Ah, now, This outer wall is actually a reference to a pretty famous castle in Japan. It's used for shooting samurai movies, period dramas all the time, and it has this hallway where they use regular geometric shapes as the arrow slits. The timing on that climb is pretty rough, and I jumped to make sure I'd be able to reach that spot and only lose half a bar instead of falling on spikes and losing a whole one. I have screwed that jump up more times than I can count. And obviously that's a tanuki that I'm climbing on there. The timing on that stuff is just so rough because you have to essentially do it all before you even get the obstacle that you're trying to avoid. That would have been useful if I hadn't fallen. If you screw up even once in this game, it's really easy for it to snowball. Like right there, I missed the jump to hook up there because I was facing the wrong way, and then bumped my head. Here comes the mid-boss ninja again, at the very end of the stage. Whoops. Yeah, that was that wide hitbox that really tends to screw me up, especially in this fight, because it's got to be essentially past your arm to avoid getting hit. There we go, finally connected. Ouch! And there you can see the snowball of death getting me. I had to get out of there, but I jumped into that guy, had to move away from that, but couldn't go backwards, had to reposition, got hit there again, and I almost got killed by that whole process. If you have to continue, you almost need to give up and just start over again, because you're just dooming yourself. And because the ninja was at the end of the previous stage, he's at the very beginning of this one. I probably should have stuck to the top, but I thought I'd be clever. Wasn't worth it. That was lucky avoiding that guy. Time's going to be a little bit short here, so I'm trying to locate clocks as I go. There is nothing at the bottom of the pit. That is strictly the 300 points that you get for going down there. Thought I was going to grab onto the ledge and I missed it. Perfectly. For once. There's that clock I want. You have to time it just right as you step off the edge and hit the umbrella to float down safely. You can tell the slow pace of this game tends to make it a pretty long one to play. Surprisingly long. Yeah, I could have gone up there for a, what would have been a noodle bowl, but I don't need that. Gotta watch out for those stars on that next platform, that's a trick. Love to see a speed run of this game just because it's so challenging and technical for an 8-bit platformer, but I don't think there is one out there. I'm sure somebody plays it faster than I do. set up there. Alright, the top row is a death trap. The bottom row has another noodle bowl, and the middle row goes to the exit. I don't need the noodle bowl, and I definitely don't need to be killed, so going this way is that. See that guy? You can't jump over him. There's milk at the end of there if you get past him, but then you're still getting hit twice more getting out. I hate it when I walk through it. The swinging animation's automatic. There's milk hidden up there behind the spider, but every time I've gone for it, I've gotten hit twice. So, I can't climb up there if I'm facing that way. This is another example of how failures can quickly cascade in this game. Now, you cannot jump onto ladders. I could jump onto the top of it if I could just barely reach, but I can't grab onto a ladder as I pass through. So I'm going to have to just float down. And it's boss time, and I really like this boss. Alright, you see the 5,000 in the lower right? That's how many points the boss has, and you take points away from him by collecting those tokens. The tokens gradually decrease in value. If they reach 0, then you get hurt. So, instead, you want to go around just collecting the tokens. They appear in a regular pattern, so if you can memorize that pattern, and unfortunately I don't have it memorized past the first few ones, then it's possible to just get to that spot ahead of the token appearing and get your 500 points out of it. And you can see there, I thought it was going to appear on the upper right. And if you screw up, then it's effectively a waste of one, but you have to still go after it anyways to prevent yourself from getting hit. Time the release, and if that happens, you have to float all the way down, and that's really time consuming. You see, I took damage on that one, but I also knew where the next one would appear. I should have stayed up on top, then I would have had an easier time. Screwing that up. Oh, come on. Ugh. Well, we know that this one's it. Alright, let's move on to the next stage, or next world. And as the sign out front said, we're in a gymnasium for this one. got to keep more of my health than I did in World 2. The top one's on a timer, but the bottom one, it turns off when you hit the S. But if it goes out all the way, you can't fall through it without taking damage. So it's essentially luck on whether or not you can get it to shut like that properly. And I still took damage anyways. Should have just fallen. Saved myself the time. We're almost back to the maximum health bar size. Hey, I'm supposed to swing on those. There's only points down there. It's a trick. And we're hitting our new mid-boss. Now this guy's pretty aggressive, but that means that you can get a lot more hits in on him. He tends to go pretty quick unless he runs away. That wild fist shot is all he does, but he comes in so close to you to set up that flurry of blows that you can just poke him. That clearly looks like a pogo. Thought I was going to swing underneath that one. At least I made that shot. Okay, that's useful. I might be pushing time a little bit harder than I'd like. I don't know why they have a giant freezer with polar bears in it in the gym, but that's 8-bit platformers for you. Yeah, bumping your head on that causes damage. And I've actually gone through the floor on this stage by falling at the wrong spot and getting into the stun animation below the floor. Do all that setup for the running jump and we wind up running into the spikes anyways. Really short on time here as I go into the last section of this stage. Nope. Now right there, that is exit written out in kanji. That's kind of done in the background pattern. I guess by this point they're getting kind of bored with the exit signs. Alright, these guys become a major pain. They're often set up in ways where it's extremely difficult to avoid their shots or deal with the timing. like right there, you have to get underneath the first one's shot, land on that far ledge, and then jump, recover from your jump, and get into the crawl, then manage to crawl into the tunnel in between the second guy's shot. It's not really likely. Plus, you have to avoid that thing while you're waiting. If I had waited for him to shoot, the dragonfly would have been in position. And the clock is really bad at this point. Sometimes you have to take the hits just to avoid letting the clock tick down too much. You can see as he approaches for that punch, I'm really pounding him here. Super hard to jump over those 3 bullets in that narrow gap, too. And you can't, they don't start triggering until you're on the swing, so... Yes, I've got some milk, finally. Now, unlike the pogo, the spring you can do from standing position. I don't know why one goes and then the other one doesn't. Okay, now coming up here is a trap that I'm going to fall into. The timing on those is tight to begin with, and I wasn't quite on the ladder when I started hitting up. So it wound up taking just a little too long. If you jump over there, you screwed up. You're taking damage. Yeah, because there's no place for you to jump back to that you can make it. Here I have to descend by clinging. Wrong way. And it's only points below this tightrope, so I'm going to break out the umbrella. Of course, now there's milk. And if I was relatively high on health, I probably would have skipped it. Alright, that guy is apparently supposed to be a cop, wildly firing his gun in all directions. That's something from the television show. I guess if you look, it does kind of seem like he's wearing a hat. I shouldn't have stopped for that. Time is way too tight. When you run out of time, rather than dying instantly, each tick of the clock drains away half of a bar of health, half a circle of health. So you can still make it to the exit when the time reaches 0. They're gonna get nastier with those machine gun, or I guess pea shooter? I don't know. Whatever they do. They're shooting guys. But they're getting nastier with them. That really looked like it was supposed to be something. Okay. Intended to activate the umbrella there, but just barely missed. And you really have to go the long way around on this one to be safe. Here we go again. Not nearly as annoying as that lion setup way back in World 1. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to collect the milk, but because of how the game is paced, it's just too easy to lose things. There's actually milk hidden back there if I wanted to cross those spots, but it's placed in a way that you cannot drink it properly. It's exactly where the bullet fires, and the bullet's paced so that there's not enough time to pick up the milk and drink it without getting shot. Now, those guys were easy. Yeah, it doesn't help that I got stuck in the umbrella animation there. Frankly, trying to navigate all those bullets to possibly get milk seems like I'd wind up losing more health than I earned. Now this has given me trouble in the past, but the easiest thing to do is just use the spring as a step rather than bouncing like I did right there. much more straightforward than trying to bounce up. There's nothing in this section. Just take off running, and you'll go right underneath all the falling spikes, and at the door. Just don't run into the wall at the end. Trying to time that so that I'd be there right when they stop, but I was about a second early. Now, going down there's really nothing worth it. I think it's much easier to go up here, but I got caught in the middle by that guy. I'm at the end here. Doesn't matter as long as I don't. I'm trying to run, but there's just not the space. That's a really easy area to wind up losing a lot of health. First time I got to this guy, I thought this was the easiest boss fight ever, because I cleared it without too much difficulty. And then, afterwards, he kicked my butt a lot. If he gets to the goal first, then he wins and you die. Right there, the swinging is how you make up most of your time. And that's all there is to it, but if you get caught, then it's pretty much over. If you fall from those poles, it's over. Time for the last world. And this is a sci-fi land. A lot of conveyor belts, there's moving platforms, and that's what makes up the majority of the obstacles in this one. Not a lot of complicated enemies in this area, mainly things that move back and forth. There's some helicopters that will also go up and will take off, fly a short distance, and then land. I missed something here, so I had to come back down. There we go. And there's also, for enemies, octopuses that move in a circular pattern. Now, you cannot catch the edge of these moving platforms. You have to land on top of them. But you can fall any height and land on top of them. It's not worth going down there for the milk, so... Yeah, it's possible to get up on top of those top bricks, but I've always found it more of a pain to jump between them than to just come down and do that. There's a spring trigger there that didn't go off. There it goes. For some reason, it never goes the first time for me. There's a fun glitch. Because I bounced into the wall, it's still considered the spring down. There isn't a lot to these planetarium stages. There's 3 of them on. I think they all are pretty much exactly the same, except they add like another alien. King isn't that tough to take out here. important thing is avoiding those shots coming from the ceiling. You've got lots of time to get in and attack him. And there's always 2 things of milk on these. The other one's a point, so why take it? The timing window here is a lot shorter than it looks. You can't complain about falling in and maxing out your health bar, huh? That jump always annoys me, and yet I always go for it. You do have to crouch here. Clear those spikes. The timing on these things is getting worse and worse. Because well, obviously you gotta get in between all 3 of those. And that's pretty much the standard for how the obstacles are coming on this stage. It's no longer about avoiding one thing, it's about avoiding 3 things that aren't on synchronized loops. Alright. These things are worse than the scorpions in Pitfall. There we go, but I still skidded off the end and into the acid. There's that milk. Got the positions backwards. It's just milk down there, and it usually winds up costing me more health than I get back, so... Now I am going to want to go back because I passed something important. So as soon as we beat up Kodos here, yeah, need that extra time. Now this is a real threat. Similar to other steps with attacks, it's really easy to catch on to the step rather than jump onto the next one. And if that happens, you get caught kind of in a loop. For some reason, I thought he was gonna go up one square before, but it's not that big a deal. Yeah, popped the umbrella accidentally rather than continued the run jump and got 2 hits for my trouble. Honestly, everything around here is so absurdly dangerous, I don't want to screw around with things more than I have to. Didn't even really get anything from that. Thought he was going to go under. That just seems set up to screw you up as you swung. But that's why you have a big health bar, because otherwise you just would not be able to survive the stage. And the last planetarium. find the use of actual constellations in the background of all these planetarium stages pretty amusing. Keeps dancing around me. Hey, I just noticed that they had the Big Dipper pointing out the Little Dipper exactly as it should in the proper night sky. Very cute. Just run. There's health refills coming up that are easier to get. And I screwed up my jump there. But at least I'm through the pit. Just trying to use the conveyor belts to go under these guys rather than dance around them with no overhead room. That looks like it's spikes, but it's not because it's just the background pattern. And there isn't really anything hidden in this mess. On to the last stage, Land of My Nightmares. Okay, the previous stages were all cakewalks compared to this. The way those UFOs move up and down, just out of sync with the platforms, makes it super hard to jump on the platforms and jump off them again without getting hit. And if you get hit, you're onto the spikes and you're taking extra damage. We're going to want to get something from here before we go on. I can go up and go back, and there's health hidden up there, but it's stupidly risky to go after. What I really wanted was that clock. There's health hidden in these pits below the acid drops. I don't need it, so I am going to get away from those. And here comes another section where I have to dodge a whole bunch of things while swinging. Alright, last platforming section of the game, or last proper platforming section of the game. And it is actually much more difficult than it looks. Between the conveyor belts and how the guys reverse direction, it can be pretty tricky to get away from them. I have to jump to the far side there, but I missed the grab. So instead I'm going to have to go do a run jump and go back the other way. That would have been a health bar increase, except can't do anything about it here. And that guy's going to catch me. At this point, I'm probably just going to use that. That's the extra health that I've collected over time. I've got a few times that I can do that, but I'm at the very end here. You can see that guy reversed as soon as I started jumping over him. Let's just power through to the end. Alright, final boss time. Alright, so what's going to happen here is on his machine a number will appear and I have to step on that switch before 10 seconds pass in order to trigger it. So 5, I step on 5, 6, you get the idea. I missed that platform though, and I landed on the 7, so I took damage. And now it reads 4. Here's where things get really troubling. If it hits 0 while I'm climbing up, I'll still hit the wrong switch. And it will cause damage for getting it wrong, plus I get the damage from not getting to it in time. So I get double damage if I get close but don't quite get there. This is especially bad with number 1, because number 1 takes a long time to reach. I got lucky with that jump. It's really tricky to make that jump without having to climb up. I don't want to use the umbrella if I don't have to, because it takes about 5 seconds to get from the top to the bottom. But if I'm up on 2 or 3, I can just drop down onto that platform and not worry about it. There's number 1. Okay, I have to get over there and then climb up that shaft. And I'm too late. And they did it to me again. Getting back from number 1 also takes a lot of time. The numbers that come up here are completely random. Yeah, I have to go all the way down and then up again to get to 3. I can't jump on the 2 because that would be hitting another switch. No way I'm making that 3 in time, so I'm just going to take the damage. That's it. Game over. So I hope you liked seeing Heisei Tensai Bakabon. Kind of a interesting platformer. I'd never call it a great one, but it's certainly not a terrible game. Pretty challenging game too. And we go out on his catchphrase, "It's all right."